All right, you guys. So here's the deal of what's going to happen today. We are going to end up finishing the chapter today, and then the rest of the week we're going to be kind of tying up any loose ends, any loose folders, discussion boards. There are end of chapter questions, numbers 1 through 10. There's an assignment for that. Then you have the quiz. There's an assignment for that. Remember, everything in here is open note, open book, unless I say otherwise. So I want you guys to use those notes in the book and everything. So you guys are aware that progress reports are due on Friday, right? So I'm going to try to get everything finished and completed and graded in the system for you guys from chapter 1 before progress reports. We are really far behind because of everything that's been happening, so we'll fix it. It'll be fine. Everything's fine. And again, just because it's been crazy, if you don't get it done, that's fine. I'm not going to hand out zeros for everybody. It just means you're going to be having to work on it on your own time because we start chapter 3 on Monday. Okay? Does that make sense? So I'm not going to hand out zeros. It's not been a very smooth chapter 1 time. But at the same time, I can't allot you guys any more time in class to work on chapter 1 after this week. You're going to have to do it on your own time. Fair? Yeah? Okay. So on page 14, you see where it says crime prevention? This is the most important sentence out of that entire paragraph. Ready? Crime prevention rests on the notion that it is better to take measures to prevent crime than to respond to crime after its occurrence. That's the most important sentence out of that whole paragraph. So the idea of crime prevention is that you want to prevent crime. Why would you want to prevent crime? Because it's bad. Would you guys rather react to something or be proactive in whatever's going to occur? If you know that it's going to rain, would you rather pack an umbrella or would you rather get soaking wet and deal with the aftermath and drying clothes and all that? You want to be proactive, right? Okay. So crime prevention, you're proactive, which means you stop it before it happens. So the whole idea of crime prevention can kind of tie into that idea of deterrence. Did you guys ever hear the term deterrence in previous classes? Kind of, no? So deterrence is I'm trying to deter you from doing something in the future. I want to make sure that you're punished enough that you don't want to do something in the future. So if you sneak out of your window at night to go to a party and you don't get punished for it, are you going to think, cool, I can just go out and do that whenever I want? The thought is probably going to cross your mind, right? But if you sneak out of your window, you get punished, a month of grounding, no car, no friends, no girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you're probably going to think twice next time, right? That's that idea of deterrence. You're wanting to prevent someone from engaging in that activity again, right? That's a really important word, so I'm going to write it up here for y'all. Maybe. Deterrence. You guys will hear that over and over again. Deterrence. So how do we start deterring people from committing crime? There are 2 different ways that your criminal justice system tends to operate as far as the court models are considered. We have your crime control model and we have your due process model. 2 very different techniques. If you understand one, then you can go ahead and assume that the other one is completely opposite. So with your crime control model, it says the crime control model emphasizes the arrest and processing of alleged criminal offenders at an efficient rate. So what that comes to take is that crime control focuses on the efficient arrest and prosecution. What does efficient mean? Fast? Quick? I spelled quick wrong. You want a quick arrest and a quick prosecution. Does that make sense? Additionally, with the idea of the crime control model, their idea is to reduce, quickly respond to, and punish. So you have someone, they committed a crime, they gotta go, right? Let's get them arrested, let's get them arraigned, let's get the court system going, let's get them sentenced, let's get them sent off to a jail. They did something bad, let's go, get it done, right? We refer to the crime control method as the assembly line. I'm gonna spell this one more time. Assembly line. Do you guys know what I talk about when I say assembly line? Like Henry Ford created the idea of assembly line. So cars, for instance, you do the doors, you do the motor, you do the wheels, you do the windshield, right? So in order to get it made as fast as possible, she does her job, sends it off, you do yours, sends it off, he does his job, right? So you get it done as fast as possible. Everyone has a job. You cannot complete your job until she gets hers done, and it's just a faster process. Instead, if she wanted to build a car, then she's got to do all the jobs herself. It's more efficient, it's quick, it's easier, right? So whenever you talk about that assembly line in crime control, you're wanting to get someone through the criminal justice system quick. Arrested, arraigned, court proceedings, jail, right? What's the issue with that? Like if you do it too fast, could there be some mistakes that get thrown in there, right? Okay. Have you guys ever heard of wrongful convictions? Because we're going to talk about wrongful convictions a lot later on. Wrongful convictions are when someone in the court system gets found guilty of a crime, but they did not actually commit the crime. That happens way more than we like to admit, and we'll get to that at a different time. But with this assembly line, we got to get all of our pieces together quickly and get this guy sentenced. A lot of things can get left in the dust. A lot of evidence can be left behind. Someone could not fully understand what's happening, which could lead to a wrongful conviction, all right? On the other hand, we have this idea of the due process model. The due process emphasizes individual rights. Emphasizes individual rights. What kind of rights do you guys have when you get arrested? What do they say to you in the movies? Oh wait.
Mm-hmm.
What are your Miranda rights?
To be silent.
You have the right to be silent? Everyone picture that first 48 moment in your head.
It's not first 48.
You have the right to be silent, you have the right to an attorney, you have the right to... But other than those Miranda rights, you guys also have a lot of other constitutional rights. You have the right to a speedy trial, if you choose. You have the right to a jury trial or a bench trial. You have the right to represent yourself as counsel. You have the right to face your accusers. You have there's a lot of different rights that we're going to get into whenever you talk about your amendments, right? Or your constitutional rights. Your due process emphasizes the individual rights, which means that it's going to take a lot more time. If we're going through and we're checking off all the boxes and making sure every right is met, everyone understands the process, it takes a lot more time. Okay? We refer to the idea of the due process model as a maze. It gets really confusing, it can take a lot of time. Your due process model might end up backing up our court system quite a bit because it does take more time, more effort to make sure all of these individual rights are met. But do you think that there's less wrongful convictions whenever you talk about due process? Probably, right? So what do? Do you let your court system get bogged down with a bunch of different court dates? Or do you speed through with the crime control method and see results fast? Okay? So now that you kind of have heard the difference between the crime control method and the due process method, what do you think would deter criminals more? What do you think would help them learn their lesson faster or better? Let me give this example. So my daughter's 4, right? She does something. What does she do? What do you want her to do? She throws rocks at a kid at a playground, right? Because she's bad. if I take the crime control method, right, and I react quickly and efficiently, and I spank her and scold her and get onto her, does she connect the behavior better? So, oh, if I throw rocks, mom's gonna be super pissed and she's gonna spank me. Is she gonna connect that idea better? Okay. What about with the due process model? If she throws rocks and I put her in the car and I'm like, you know what, when we get home, we're gonna talk about it. So then talking happens, and is she gonna connect it and when it's, 30 minutes after the incident? Maybe not. But that would also give me time to hear her story under the due process thing. So I get home, I start talking to her. Turns out that kid over there threw rocks at her first. But if I had jumped the gun with the crime control model, she would have connected, don't throw rocks, mom's gonna be pissed. But I would have completely missed the fact that that kid threw rocks at her first and she was reacting. Does that make sense? So they both have advantages and disadvantages whenever you talk about the court system. Oh, hang on. Oh, hang on. Influences on criminal justice. If you guys will turn the page on your notes. Influences on the criminal justice system. There are 4 different areas of influences on the criminal justice system. And we're going to kind of fly through these a little bit because a lot of them should be pretty understandable. Fear of crime. In general, U.S. residents believe that there is much more crime than there actually is. Fear of crime. How do you think fear of crime would influence the criminal justice system? How many of you have a house security system? Anybody in here? A dog? A gun? But you have something to protect your home, essentially, right? Some type of alarm protection system. I have a home alarm system. Do you know how many times I've needed it? And how long have I had it now? 8 years? 0. But why do we have it?
To make sure.
To make sure, to prevent, to whatever. So I was not at all swayed by all those commercials I was seeing where every 8.7 seconds a home burglary occurs in the United States or whatever. Do you guys see those commercials? Do you see how that could be pretty intimidating to an individual? Like, oh, I gotta get a house thing now because all these break-ins are happening. Or on this side of town, everyone's going through and picking out stuff out of vehicles, and now I gotta, you see what I'm saying? Do you see how easy it is for word to kind of spread throughout a community about, oh, this is happening over here and we got to protect ourselves, but it's not even happening here. Or if it is, maybe it's just not your location, or maybe it's whatever, right? But the idea is that fear of crime makes us more scared than we actually need to be in a lot of instances. Let me throw these things out to you. What about gender, age, past, ethnicity, culture, and location? Would any of those things make you more fearful to be a victim? How would gender, age, let me write these down, past, ethnicity, culture, and location? How many of you have ever, and y'all are kind of young, so maybe not. How many of you have ever left like Walmart pretty late at night and held onto your pockets a little more than normal? I don't think so. Jenny, do you carry a purse? No? Y'all will see what I'm talking about when you get older. Let me bring up a new one. How many of you have siblings other than Daniel? Daniel's the only child. Do you guys, this doesn't apply to you either. So think of it in this aspect. When I was a kid, my brother could do no wrong. He literally egged and toilet papered houses and then got to go out the next day. Like, no shame, right? No punishment, no nothing. I could not go to a friend's house. Why?
Because you're a girl.
Because I'm a girl. Do you see what I'm saying with that? Gender can play a huge role into kind of giving you more fear than you have to be. It's different, and as a woman, when you get older, there is a little bit more fear when you walk places, and I hate that it is that way. But there's a little bit more fear when you go places, and you kind of watch your surroundings more. You hear the stories. Kids are getting taken, girls are getting taken, and not that it's not happening, but it makes you a lot more aware of your surroundings as a female, right? So gender can play a huge role. What about age? What if I'm like super old? Am I more likely to be a victim of crime? Maybe. You don't think so? Maybe it's easier to break into grandma's house or steal grandma's social security checks or take advantage of her. I have a friend whose mother got scammed quite often from like the internet stuff like y'all hear, you might hear, I don't know. But she didn't know any better. She was older. She has a lot of trust in people, that type of thing. What about your past? If you've been previously victimized, does that make you kind of more scared in the future? Maybe. Ethnicity, your culture. There's a lot of hate crimes that can happen, right? And we get into hate crimes in another chapter. Location. Is it different walking around Mount Pleasant than it is downtown Dallas, Commerce Street? Yeah. See what I'm saying with that? Media coverage. What's going on in our media today? Riots, COVID, cops killing people, right? Our media coverage tends to give off this idea of a moral panic. So what that means is they kind of pick a topic and they run with it. And then it gets everyone hyped up and scared, and then it almost makes us forget the things that actually apply to either our location or previous things that we should be focusing on as well. So not that COVID isn't here and alive, but what are you hearing more about on the news? Cops and riots and all that, right? Well, what happened to all that COVID coverage we had? Now we're focusing our attention on this and everyone's freaking out over here, right? If you pay attention to the news enough, you'll start to see that. Politics. Hot button issues. So your politics come into play with influencing the criminal justice system because of the hot button issues that politicians can bring up. Hot button issues would be something like, with the presidential election coming up, you know, each side kind of picks their feelings on things like gun rights and abortion and immigration and all that stuff, right? Sides pick what they want to go with. Well, whatever we think is a bigger thing, like remember when we thought immigration was a huge, huge deal last presidential election? And that was like a huge fight? Remember? That creates that hot button issue. So all of a sudden, we're not really considering what the stances are from our presidential electees on gun rights or abortion or religion or anything else. They created a hot button issue over immigration. And that's what we were focused on, right? Hot button issues are things that kind of propel politicians to gain more spotlight and more followers because they're going to pick and influence us on our decisions. Discrimination. How would discrimination influence criminal justice? Is our criminal justice system biased? What does bias mean? B-I-A-S. Our criminal justice system has a bias to people of color, right? Minorities. We'll get in, again, we get into that. This is just introducing the criminal justice system. I promise we touch base on all this stuff, but the numbers do not lie. Whenever you start to see the differences between the amount of people that are getting tried and convicted and sent to prisons, whenever you talk about like your white population versus your Latino and your black populations, like it's ridiculous. It doesn't, your numbers cannot lie. And we get into that a lot more. But there is a huge discrimination and a huge bias in the criminal justice system where, oh, it's supposed to be fair and just. Is it fair and just? No. Okay. Challenges to the criminal justice system. This is our last slide. Yay! We're done. No one's happy. Challenges to the criminal justice system. So we have global and domestic challenges. What does global mean? Worldwide. What does domestic mean? Good old United States. All right. So whenever you talk about challenges to criminal justice today, I put these backwards on your slide, and I didn't mean to. It was supposed to be global challenges first, so we'll do that side first. Your global challenges. Some of the challenges from a global perspective is trafficking. What is trafficking?
Sending something to another country.
Good. I probably spelled that wrong. I don't count off for spelling because I can't spell. Okay, so do your best. Trafficking is, sending something to another country, right? What do you think our top 3 trafficking things are that are occurring at a global pace?
Drugs.
Drugs are number 1.
People.
People are number 3. What about number 2?
Food.
Huh? I wish it was food. I'd be all over that actually. What about guns?
Oh yeah.
Weapons. So that's a huge thing. Challenges to the criminal justice system as far as trafficking drugs, trafficking weapons, trafficking humans is huge. And it's gotten a lot worse over the years because now we have this cool internet thing and all these different apps and all these different like secret ways to do stuff. You guys have seen like the conspiracy theories. The internet has made things a lot tougher when it comes to cracking down on certain stuff, right? Other issues, bioviolence. What is bioviolence? Like chemical warfare type thing, right? And then identity theft. What is identity theft?
You steal your identity.
Steal my ID. Why is that an issue? People open up, they use your social security, your identity to open up different credit cards, buy a bunch of stuff, to do whatever, right? And it's a huge issue because it's not like you can make one phone call and all that stuff goes off your credit and off of your bank accounts and all that. It's a process. It can take years to clean all that up for your credit. What do you need credit for?
To buy houses.
To buy houses, to buy cars, to buy my security system. When we bought this house in Mount Vernon, we had to run our credit just to get our utilities, our electric and our water turned on, right? Credit is very important. What about domestic challenges? Prison population. Our prisons, jails, penitentiaries, all of those are operating at about a 300, I think the last time I saw statistics, like a 300% operation, which means that they are 3 times over the population that they need to be. So if it's overcrowding, it can cause a lot of issues as far as the safety of people, because typically there should be a ratio of guard to inmates, whatever it is, like a 1 to 40 inmates or something type thing. So that number is completely off, that ratio is off. But then you're also running out of supplies. You're running out of funding, you're running out of beds. If I'm having to share a cell, like a 9x9 cell with 4 other people because the prison's overcrowded, I'm probably gonna be pissed off. Is a pissed off inmate good? No. Okay, they can cause issues. What about recidivism rates? What is recidivism? Recidivism is like repeat offending. Convicted individuals, 3 out of 4 individuals will do some type of repeat offending or recidivism within 4 years of being released, if I remember correctly. So our programs that we have to help people reintegrate back into society are not cutting it. Somewhere, someone is getting lost in the mix, and they either feel like they don't have an option but to go back and doing whatever they were doing, or they just choose to. And those people that choose to, it is what it is, you know? But it's sad for the individuals that feel like they don't have a place to go back to or a safe place, or they can't get out of the area that they're in, and then they feel like they have to reoffend. That's the only way they can make money now. That's the only way they can support a family, whatever it is, right? But they recidivate, they repeat offend. And then the last one, wrongful convictions. Your wrongful convictions, we talked about for a second. It's when people are wrongfully convicted. They have not actually committed the crime that they were sentenced for. The majority of your wrongful convictions stem from misidentification, eyewitness error. So witnesses are getting on the stand and saying that they saw something, and maybe the witness fully believes that they did, but somewhere something happened, and that eyewitness misidentification is what screwed that guy over, and now he's serving time in prison, right? So a lot of times your recanted statements or DNA are what help people get out of prison, right? Okay. So that is chapter 1. It was all an introduction to the criminal justice system, right? What time is it? 9:36. So you guys have about 15 minutes. It's up to you if you guys want to get started on your Blackboard stuff, if you want to save that for a different day and just work on your worksheet, whatever you need to do. It is your time, use it wisely. You have the rest of today, all day tomorrow, and Friday to get all of chapter 1 stuff completed.
How many